Hey
everybody.
Welcome to our Monday Night live stream.
Yeah.
We're excited. It's been a big week. It's been a big Lorcana week. It's our second full week with the game out. Everybody's getting cards. We're seeing the meta develop. We're seeing tournaments.
There was the little Walmart kerfuffle this week.
The Walmart kerfuffle this week where everybody was like, go check your Walmart immediately. Lorcana is at Disney World and Land. So man, what an amazing week. For those following the game, for the last year, this is like, it's incredible.
It's very surreal that it's actually happening.
I know,
but it has happened.
It has happened. Well, we have a really exciting, we have a full show tonight, a very full show. Tonight we're gonna do a couple things. First, we're gonna spend the first half of the show talking about competitive play, the meta, what it looks like. We've got some amazing guests who are gonna talk about the first big cash tournament, I think, that we saw, the one in Tennessee by Nat20 Games. We're going to bring in one of the top 4 players and get her thoughts on the meta and her deck, and you all can ask questions. And then we're doing an artist.
Yeah, we're doing an artist interview later.
Yeah, we're going to bring in Cam Kendell. Who's going to talk to us for about half an hour, answer all of your questions. You can talk all about his cards. It's going to be great.
Yeah, super excited.
So as always, throughout the stream, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the chat and we'll get them in. But first, I want to introduce another amazing creator. We've been excited to get him on the show for a long time. One of our favorites, bringing Heath from Be Our Guest.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? That's a really high pitch there for a second. I'm channeling my inner Mickey Mouse here.
It came across well. It's very Lorcana.
Yes.
No, thanks for joining us tonight. We're glad you're going to take part in the conversation. And how was your second Lorcana week?
I gotta tell you, it was a lot better than my first. I will say that first was a struggle. I know Stephanie was on last week talking about the Pacific Northwest and the challenges for product there. Western Canada, we had the same challenge. Namely, a lot of our product got stuck back east. And so, it was a little challenging the first weekend, but still great community. But once the product started flowing and we got more than a starter deck, it started to feel like actual Lorcana. And it was great. Seeing so many people out, seeing events with just dozens and dozens of people out, just made me feel really good. Because there was a time there where I was like, is anybody playing in my community? Is there anybody around? But there are. They're prevalent.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, and speaking of Cam Kendell and Lorcana artists, you got to meet a Lorcana artist this week, didn't you?
I did, and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. I said so on Twitter. I have a little bit of shame. Nicholas Cole is apparently from Vancouver, and I did not know. I know you posted the map of where everyone's at, but it didn't really process for me. Hey, there's a dot there that's where you live, and it's the main artist for the set. It's like, oh. So he came out to an event, a draft that we were at Rain City Games in Vancouver. Shout out there. And oh my gosh, like you already know from meeting him. But just to anybody out there that hasn't had a chance to check out the previous video of yours with him on there, he is the most genuine and amazing human being. Like, they always say don't meet your heroes. So it's like you always worry about when you're meeting someone, are they going to be as nice as they seem? And he was just incredible. So I'm really hoping that he's really getting into the game and he keeps coming out to play for events. Come on, Nick.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we've had the privilege of getting to meet and interact with, I think, 14 or 15 artists now. And every single conversation we leave and we say, this is the best, this is the nicest person we've ever met.
Yeah.
Every single time. It's amazing the people they have working on this game.
Yeah. I wonder if that was like a goal for them. It's like, let's not just bring in good artists, but good people, good ambassadors for the game. I wonder if that might have been in the thought process there, because it seems too much of a coincidence otherwise.
I mean, and also, how can you not want to work on Disney and just be like a happy person, just in general,
Yeah. And it was great that there was so many Disney fans, right? Not just people that were capable of creating Disney art, but actual Disney fans and people that, Nick loves to talk about, his Goofy movie love of that, his love of Treasure Planet, all that good stuff. Like true Disney fans. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's gonna do a Powerline card one day. It's gonna happen.
I'm there for it.
And if somebody else does it, I feel like it's a huge lost opportunity.
I don't think he'd let that happen.
I don't think so either. Well, let's get into our first segment. We're going to invite our first guest in here. This is Frank of Nat20 Games in Tennessee.
Welcome back, Frank.
Frank, good to see you again.
Thank you. You too.
So for those watching, Frank ran, I think it is the first big cash money tournament in Lorcana last weekend. The game's been out a week and you're running a 1K tournament. How did it go?
Well, there was a couple, kerfuffles that happened, but for the most part, everything went really well. Everybody seemed to have a really good time. Pretty decent wide spectrum of different colored decks. Pretty good idea what the meta is going to end up being, though.
Interesting. We definitely want to talk about that in a minute. I am curious, what kind of players showed up? Did you have a lot of pro players, locals? Did people travel? What was the crowd like?
We had some locals. I think a lot of the locals still haven't really got to a competitive point in the game. We did have a lot of in-state competitive players, people I've recognized from competitive Magic scene. We had quite a few from out of state too. We had a couple from Georgia. We had some from Virginia. Some people from Kentucky. So there was a few people that drove 4 or 5 hours to come to it.
That's so exciting. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really good.
So, and I understand too that based on time, you didn't have one winner. You cut to the top 4, and that was kind of where it ended.
Yeah, they all decided that they wanted to split top 4, and I can't blame them. They all wanted a little bit.
Yeah, and interesting.
And how many people were participated in the tournament?
We had 39.
Okay.
Participated. We had 4 or 5 that signed up and couldn't end up coming for one reason or another one. Mm-hmm. But it was pretty good for a competitive tournament where you're not going to get a starter deck tournament is more for casual. You can get a lot of families and kids. So competitive is going to be less people.
Yeah.
So we were happy with the turnout.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Well, speaking of finisher or
the
top 4,
yeah.
Speaking of the top 4, actually, before we bring in our next guest, Luna, I do want to ask. You said you have a good idea of how the meta is shaping up. Mm-hmm. As you watched the tournament, what did you see? What trends did you see?
So most of the tournament decks were control decks. So I'd say 2/3 of the decks were control. Probably 1/3 were aggressive decks, aggro or mid-range. Amethyst Ruby by far had the best showing. It had the most decks. So the most decks are going to end up doing the best probably. But it had, I think it was 9. Yeah, 9 of the 39 players were playing Ruby Amethyst control. And 6 of the top 8 were Ruby Amethyst control.
Yeah,
so
I was saying,
that will show you what the meta is going to look like.
6% got into the top 8. That's wild.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Interesting.
Duly noted. Going to write that down.
Yeah, I was about to say, Liam and I are like, we have notes, and we're both like Ruby Amethyst.
Well, it's interesting because it says and actually, I'll just leave this here as I bring in Luna. But I wonder if those types of competitive players who are really good at carrying just gravitate towards that color combination and that control combination, or if that deck just performs well.
I think it's a combination of both. It's a deck that is able to survive for a while, that can deal with a lot of different things, and it probably plays the most like a Magic deck. So a lot of the competitive Magic players brought that.
Interesting.
Kind of makes it easier to play. It's not a new kind of type of deck that they have to get accustomed to.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, on that note, we've teased enough. Let's get Luna in here. Luna, hey, thanks for joining us tonight. Hey, so just to introduce Luna a bit, you are correct me if I'm wrong, a competitive Hearthstone player, streamer, long history in TCGs. So you are not new to this at all. And you went up from Atlanta to Tennessee for this tournament and did really well. How was the experience overall?
Oh, it was really good. I learned Lorcana, like the game rules, a week before. My friend brought 2 starter decks, and then I had another friend come to the card shop, and after I learned the rules, he was like, oh, I've been playing on Pixelborn for the last 2 weeks. There's this like Amethyst Ruby control deck. He was the person that kind of inspired me to like get into the game deeper. So that night we downloaded Pixelborn and played games with each other. And throughout that whole week leading up to the tournament, I just kind of like touched base with him a lot, talked a lot about different decks, and card availability was also an issue because, the deck needs 4 Maleficents as well. But ended up bringing the same deck as him, and the overall experience was really good. We both made top 4, so can't complain.
That's
amazing.
Very good. Do you have a question?
No. I'm just in awe that you got your hands on 4 Maleficents in the first game.
Yeah.
Did you kidnap
my friend he works at the card. He's a manager at the card store I go to, and his name's Carter. Shout out to Carter. He went to Gen Con and he was like all in on Lorcana there, and he said he was already trading for Maleficence. Like he was building the Ruby Amethyst control deck like right from the get-go. So it was good thing I was friends with him and he wasn't going to
Yep.
Tennessee, I guess. So
Got a head start a little bit from Gen Con.
yeah, exactly.
Did you want to talk about
Well,
Luna's specific deck?
I did actually. So, it might be partly your fault that Maleficent's doubled in price over the last couple days.
Oh, no.
I think a lot of us went to check on TCG Player, like eager to build your deck list, and I think there were 5 available last I checked, and they'd gone from like $35 to like $70.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so we actually have your deck list here if it'll present.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested, this is what you ran. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, and I want to talk about the ways to organize because I want to try and encourage other people to organize their decks similarly. So I have it organized by curve 1, 2, 3, 4, because I think Lorcana, it's very important that you use your mana every turn. You don't want to be skipping the first, especially turn 2 and turn 3, because that's when a lot of aggro decks are starting to put a lot of pressure on you. And if you're just passing your turn on those turns, you're going to fall behind. But I have it separated from inkables and non-inkables. I actually don't run very many non-inkables. I think I run, 4, 8, 12, 16, which is pretty low. I think a lot of people are running more non-inkables. But the thing that I learned from playtesting this deck over the course of the week on Pixelborn is that these uninkable cards, these are the core cards, because when you draw them, you are going to have to play them at some point. They're not like, certain tech cards that you can put face down as an ink and use them as a land later on. Like when you draw that card, you put it in your deck to actually use it. You don't get away with like having a dead card in your hand. So a lot of people are running like 3 or 4 magic mirrors, 3 or 4 Rafikis, even like running Ursulas and Elsas. And I think that they might be able to get away with that in week 1 while the aggro decks are still kind of unrefined. But particularly, I'm a little concerned with Amber and Emerald. So my deck was a little bit more low curve. Just to deal with that, I have Archimedes, so I can try and fight the Lola on turn 1. I have Gaston, so I can fight a Simba. Simba is very scary as well. And especially just in time in a Cusco. Now, there wasn't a lot of Emerald. There wasn't a lot of Amber Emerald at that tournament. There was a lot of Amber Amethyst, and that was a little bit easier to deal with because the Emerald character is a lot more scary.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I was trying to play a list that was more good against aggro while also trying to have tools against the mirror. So that's why I had Magic Broom and Ursula, because those 2 in particular are very good in the mirror. Yeah.
Interesting.
What would you say was your biggest challenging matchup? Like, what was the game where you were like, "Ooh, this one was close"?
It was definitely the mirror. So I rode up with my friend Kendell. He was the other person that made top 4. A few days leading up to it, he was encouraging me to run Shield and watch for the mirror. If you don't know Shield, it's the item that you pay 3 mana to ready one of your characters, and then the watch is something you can use to give rush. Now, they're both inkable, which is huge, and the reason why they're so good in the mirror is because you can use the shield to make it so the rush minions can't trade into your minions that are luring. So let's say, for example, you have a Mickey Mouse out. If you have like a Mickey Mouse and Broom, you could lure with Mickey Mouse, and then you could ready it, so then they can't attack it, which means they have to use hard removal on it. There's only 4 Dragonfires and 4 Be Prepared, so using hard removal on that, you're eventually going to run out. You're actually eventually going to run out of hard removal, and you're going to put your opponent in a very awkward position where they're just going to have to start racing you. So I didn't have access to that. So when I played against him in the mirror, I could see it was very frustrating to play against that, and eventually I did run out of hard removal. And in addition, the watch that gives rush was very concerning because it made it so, if I did want to lure with like a Maleficent or something, Kendall could just drop an Aladdin, give it rush, and during 2 lore, and all of a sudden, it's a huge tempo swing. So not having access to those 2 cards made the mirror a lot more difficult. I did play the mirrors some other times throughout the tournament, and when they didn't have those cards, it was a lot easier. It's just a more straightforward mirror match. So far, the mirror is most scary. I would say Emerald. Amber would also be scary if people start learning how to build that deck correctly, because I think right now the meta's still early and people haven't really agreed upon the perfect 60 for these archetypes. There's a lot of disagreement. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Are you going to tell us what the perfect 60 is on Twitter or something for Amber Emerald there?
Yeah, so for Emerald, for the Emerald, the Amber deck, so
not necessarily right now, but
Yeah.
you're going to spoil that at some point, or you're going to hold it close to the vest? You're going to like...
No, so I mean, the core of that deck is you play 4 Lilo, 4 Simba, 4 Just in Time, and then you play all the 5 drops. So you play 4 Mad Hatter, 4 Goofy, and you play 4 Cusco. And the reason you want to run all of those is because they're all inkable. So even if you draw multiples, it doesn't matter. You just want to be able to just in time into a 5 drop on turn 3 and race before your opponent can drop Be Prepared. And the reason why the deck is so scary is because Amber has insane card draw. It has Rapunzel, it has Stitch Rockstar, it has the Stitch Surfer as well. And, you know, being able to shift on a 1-drop Stitch as well is also concerning, because let's say your opponent's at 18 lore and has a 1-drop Stitch in play, and you thinking, do I even kill that? Do I leave it up? Because your opponent can just drop a Rockstar, shift onto it, and lore for 3 and just kill you in 1 turn. So in testing, I didn't see a lot of that deck, and I was beating it, but it was always very close. And I feel like I was only beating it because I designed my deck to be more anti-aggro. A lot of these other Ruby Amethyst decks that are a lot more greedy and run cards like Elsa, I don't even think you get a chance to play Elsa against that deck because they're so fast. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the aggressive decks start to tune up and become more strong.
Interesting. I'm still staring at your deck list. So as a player who's coming from a lot of other TCGs, one thing I think that new players struggle with quite a bit is the mulligan. Because a lot of people who have been playing Lorcana for a while, you know, will say the game is really won or lost with the mulligan oftentimes. Can you talk about your approach to mulliganing and how you rearrange your hand?
Yeah, it's more of like a holistic approach versus like a linear approach. It's not as simple as you're looking for XYZ, and if you have those, you keep those and throw everything else back. You need to make sure you have some inkables in your hand. You don't want to end up in, if you're too aggressive with your mulliganing, you can just by unlucky chance draw too many non-inkables, and then you're just going to start missing your ink drops. So usually I'll try and keep 1 or 2 curve cards, like keep a 1, a 2, and a 3. And then in addition, I'll keep like top cards like Aladdin, or I might keep a second 2-drop like Gaston, because I need to make sure I have something ink in addition to my drops. In general, I would avoid trying to keep non-inkable cards. The only exception would be obviously if you're an aggro deck and you're running Lilo or 1-drop Maleficent, you would want to keep those. Or if you have Rafiki, see, that was another reason I played 2 Rafiki, is because Rafiki is the strongest 3-drop tempo-wise, but if you're playing 4 Rafiki and you keep a Rafiki, chances are you're going to draw more Rafikis later on. So I wanted to design my deck so if I kept Rafiki, I wouldn't draw multiples later on. It's a lot to think about, and I think it's kind of a trial and error thing. I think maybe for a lot of people, especially since it's early on and you won't have, the money to access to just play every single deck, just find an archetype that you like, play it a lot, refine it a lot, and try different mulligans. And I think you just kind of have to brute force it a little bit. It's like I said, it's something that I think a lot of you could probably show a lot of good players the exact same opening hand, and I think all of them would mulligan differently. So
interesting. So Frank, I have a question for you as a game store owner who's been around a lot of these tournaments and stuff. One thing we're seeing is that Lorcana is attracting a lot more of a casual audience, I think. At least a lot of our events that we've been to, we've seen a lot of first-time TCG players. And so we do a lot of talk, all the people who have been in the game for a while are doing a lot of talk about meta and competitive play and all that. And for some of them, making the jump to competitive play can be intimidating. So I guess two-part question. One, did you have many people in the tournament this weekend who are maybe dipping their toes into the competitive scene for the first time? And then from you, and then maybe Luna as well, do you have any advice for, new TCG players who are looking to do competitions?
We probably had, I'd say maybe 5 or 6 people that were pretty new to a tournament scene. Didn't seem like we had a whole lot. There were definitely people that were just interested in this game in particular that just wanted to try it out. But for something this high competitive, and we tried to warn all our locals too that like this wasn't going to be like the starter tournaments. It was going to be a pretty high level, play, because you don't really want new people going into something that highly competitive, because it's completely different. And I think easing their way in, playing starter tournaments, things like that is the best way to get them into tournament play. They definitely don't want to jump into a super high level cash tournament or, drive too far to play in a constructed, tournament like that. Just keep playing in the starter deck tournaments, keep playing in the league. If you have players that are really good around you, make sure you play against them and make sure you're asking lots of questions. Why did they do that? If they do something you don't understand, find out why they did that. Ask what they thought of your play. Don't be afraid. You're going to do things wrong. I mean, you're going to do a lot of things wrong, and make sure you ask them, what it is. Most players that are pretty good will have no problem helping you out. Everyone knows that the more people that play, the bigger the community gets, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah. Interesting. And Luna, what about you? Do you have any recommendations for new people to the competitive scene?
Pixelborn. Download Pixelborn. Played a lot. It's free. You have access to the entire card pool. Google search Lorcana Deck Builder because I don't remember the deck builder name. Build lots of decks, look at other people's decks, join Discords, talk to other people, discuss strategy. I think it's just be social. It's a social game. It's not something you're going to figure out on your own. It's a collaborative game. You want to work with other people, and even if they're not the best players in the world, it can be just people to bounce ideas off of. And I learn a lot by playing Pixelborn because I'll get exposed to like different decks I haven't seen before. That Emerald deck that we haven't seen yet that I keep talking about shows up a lot on Pixelborn, and I didn't even know about it until I ran into it, and it beat the crap out of me. And then that's when I was like, oh, this is new. Wouldn't even have known about it if I didn't play Pixelborn though.
That's interesting. So you actually set us up for a perfect introduction here, talking about community and collaborative play and everything else. We have one more guest before our next segment to bring in, who decided to pop by for a few minutes. This is Medina, who runs the Lorcana 8 Discord, the man himself. Thanks for
How's it going? How's it going, everybody? Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if you caught the first part of our conversation. We're talking all about the meta and what it's shaping up like. You all, kind of ran a tournament recently. What are you seeing in the meta right now? And then what advice would you give to players looking to jump into competition for the first time?
So I guess like we saw a lot of Ruby, and so we had a tournament. It was a tabletop sim tournament, and there was 45 people, and it started like right after Gen Con. So we do 48-hour rounds to give flexibility for people to kind of meet up and play their round. It's not like a all in one night kind of thing. So it's been going on since Gen Con came back, and it's basically there was 45 people, and the top 8 is full of Ruby. And I think part of the reason why is because Be Prepared is so good. I think that Be Prepared kind of sets things up, the kind of the curve, sing a Be Prepared and then play like a big threat, or, having these like Maleficents to go over the top after a Be Prepared to take care of like whatever they play to the follow up. And it kind of takes the tempo of the game. And so that's what we've seen in that tournament. But keep in mind, that tournament was older, right? Because it was just right after Gen Con. And then people were playing it out over the last couple of weeks. And so I think we've seen some innovations in the recent times different things, people trying different stuff. And so I think these deck lists will evolve, the ones that we see in the top 8. There's already, like, if you talk to anybody who played there, they already have a lot of changes they want to make to the deck list that they, that they've been playing for the last week in the tournament. So yeah, I think we're going to see some evolution of some stuff. Fast aggro decks do have a chance, especially if someone misses their Be Prepared, it could be over before. I've noticed that some of the chunky green decks, like if you just go like Cusco, they can't get rid of it, and then they tap it for 3, and then they get rid of it. If you just chain Cuscos together, you could just win the game. It's like for those who are like familiar with burn spells and Magic the Gathering, some of those 3 lore characters are like burn spells. All you need is 3 lore out of them. You don't really need to keep, doing it.
It's really how you ruin your opponent's groove.
No touchy.
It's a great film. So interestingly, Luna actually brought up another good point about some advice for new players about community. And you run probably the biggest Lorcana community. I mean, there's Facebook groups, but I think the biggest like community of Lorcana players with the Discord. Can you talk a bit about that and about how you would encourage people to engage, new players perhaps to engage with the community and other Lorcana players?
The biggest advice that I could give everybody who's trying to gather around the community of Lorcana is just to show grace to each other, because I feel like there's a lot of people coming from different backgrounds and different perspectives. We have Disney collectors or Disney people who are Disney fans. We have hardcore TCGers. We have investors. All of this melting pot of people coming together, and we just need to have as much grace for each other as we can and understand that everyone needs a little bit of space to run in their circle and kind of like say their piece and be heard, because the release hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of frustration with the limited availability of cards and product. And so that's the biggest thing is I would say. The other thing I would say is just that it's have fun, have fun with it. Like, this is a really fun game. It's like we are, blessed to have a game that is fun and that is interesting and has depth and has, it has something for everybody, right? If the people who are just learning can get in, play, and have fun, and then it has that depth for the TCGers to really like sink their teeth into. And I think that's a cool thing. I remember when Lorcana was announced, I immediately started to work on like kind of social media and building a community. And I just remember thinking, man, I hope this game is good. Like because I didn't know what a card looked like. I didn't know anything. And then I saw the cards and I go, oh, I'm encouraged. Like the graphic design, the artwork, the continuity, this looks great. But again, they wouldn't give us rules, right? So I'm like, how do you play? Everyone's like, how do you play? We don't know. And when we finally got it, like when we finally saw, oh, okay, I was so happy to realize, okay, the game is good. And so, have fun with it. We're blessed to have a good game to gather around, and hopefully a game that will have a lot of longevity that we can all enjoy for a long time. We're going to be around for a minute, everybody. So let's get comfortable. Let's give each other grace and have some fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wait,
I was about to say you were definitely not alone. And when we were all jumping into Lorcana space around D23 last year, where we were all just like, "Oh, I hope this game is going to be good."
All right, we are almost out of time for this segment. I got like 1 or 2 quick hits from the chat, like quick answers. One, do you all think that the limited card availability is affecting the decks being played in the meta right now, or is that not affecting what we see in physical play?
It definitely is. Definitely is. There's a lot of the larger cards, like Luna said, Maleficent, Elsa's. I think a lot of the reason we didn't see a lot of Amber at our tournament is because nobody could get a hold of Rapunzel's. That seems to be the one card that is more scarce than anything. And I think that definitely affected the meta.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because, we've been having trouble stocking Rapunzel's. So, like, it's wild. I mean, we've opened a lot of product and we've been buying aggressively trying to get singles. Like, we have every single on our store. And, like, I'm trying to keep it that way. But Rapunzel is the one card that is just so much pressure on that card. And we just don't open a lot of them. I don't know if it was, I'm not trying to, I don't want to say short print because then everyone, it gets weird. But, like, man, it's been hard to get that card. Let me just agree with you on that.
It has been.
I will say that the digital results do not reflect that, right? Because anyone can, when you have like something like, whether you're using tabletop sim or digital stuff, there is no limitation to which cards you could play. So I don't think anyone was limited in the Lorcana HQ tournament we did, because they could just make their deck list whatever they wanted.
That's awesome. Final question for this group, and it's for Frank. Frank, any more tournaments on the horizon? Are you going to do that again, or are we going to take a break for now?
No, we're absolutely doing it again. We haven't set the date exactly, but I'm pretty sure it'll be September 23rd. We haven't set it in stone yet, but that's what it's looking like. We're going to do another 1K there, and as long as this keeps growing steadily and we can keep people interested in it, we'll keep doing it once a month.
Well, if anybody wants to go to Tennessee in September.
Luna, you going to make the trip again?
Yeah, strong possibility.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, you could label it as the original Lorcana 1K. I mean,
Exactly.
The OG.
Yeah.
We'll announce on our Facebook exactly when the time and date will be. Just everybody follow that.
Awesome.
That's perfect.
Do you have any socials, Frank, for people to follow?
We're on Facebook and we're trying to get on Instagram. We're in the process of kind of moving where our location's at, so it's been keeping everything real busy for us on top of this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Luna, where can people find you?
All of my handles are Luna Love with 3 E's and then an 8 at the end.
Perfect.
Every other one was taken.
Yeah, I actually have it right here. Boom, preparation.
Yes. Hey, thank you.
Right there. We want to make sure people can find you. Well, thank you two both so much for joining us. We hope to have you back on in the future.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.
Good night.
Take care.
That was a lot of fun. Really excited for our next meeting. I do have to say, we're doing a lot of talking about, Pixelborn and TTS. There are great ways to play, but we fully support everybody, supporting Ravensburger. There's a lot that's gone into the development of this IP, a lot of work. The team has been working for years on this game. So definitely keep that in mind. Supporting the company that brought us the game that we love is so good. Big fans.
And making sure it's around for years to come.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's super important. So yeah, what you all think of the report out of Tennessee?
I thought it was fascinating. Like seeing those numbers. I'm a data guy. I know Knives in the chat there. I know he's a data guy too. So seeing the percentages, the ratios of the fact that there was only 9 decks, Ruby, Amethyst, to funnel down to 3 of the 4 in the top 4. Was pretty wild. I thought Steven asked a good question in the chat, which is just where should we focus our attention in terms of the data? Should we look at the Tennessee 1K? Should we look at the Pixelborn data that came out, the LorcanaHQ tournament? And I think there's so much out there that we just kind of got to give it time, let it breathe a little bit, and we'll see how things settle out.
Early days yet.
I don't think the data is conclusive. That's what I would say, is that, it's a new game. There's a lot of stuff to think about. As you play the game, as you get reps in, you see that there's a lot of depth and a lot of things that are going to change, the way that people approach the game. So I would say, like, find a deck that you're happy with and that you think is fun, and just kind of follow that data, follow what the innovations in that deck type is, and kind of start to pick up the cards that go with those innovations or go with that deck style. I've seen people doing a lot of like picking colors and just being like, I'm going to just build my set of these colors, and then I can just switch things out as my deck breathes and changes. And so I think I would focus on something that's fun, something that you enjoy. Remember that like OP from Ravensburger is not coming for just a minute yet. So, we don't need to be locked in on the best deck yet. Yeah. And, it's time to have some fun and kind of just figure out what's fun to you in the game. And I think as that goes, then you can have that little magnifying glass for when you see tournament results. Oh, what does my deck look like? Or did it make it? Or, something like that.
I'm right there with you, because like if you aren't uber competitive like Luna and you want to keep playing this game, just playing the best deck, you might not like that. You might not enjoy it. Play the deck you want to play, and you're going to be in this game for a lot longer. So.
Like I'm playing with crabs, I like the like the item deck.
So shiny. Yes,
so
item
shiny,
slingers.
But it's good. Like there's cool things you could do with it. So I'm doing some innovation with that deck, and I've taken the Maurice's out completely. Like it's an item deck in in name only because basically crabs, but you know, I think there's a lot of.
I can
cool
tell
things
that
we can do.
Aaron's like, we gotta move.
I love this conversation.
We're gonna have to hard pivot into our next conversation. So we're so excited to invite the artist who brought us Donald Duck strutting his stuff, Captain Hook, Ruthless Pirate, and Dr. Facilier,
We've got all the
and
cards.
the Enchanted Mickey.
Yeah, I was gonna
So please welcome to the show, Cam Kendell.
yeah. Cam.
Hey!
Okay.
I was gonna say, that conversation was actually a great segue. Speaking of finding something in the game that you love, maybe it's a deck that you like to play, or maybe it's card art that you just absolutely love and want to build around. Like Cam, you have some that we absolutely love. Cam, this is our first time talking to you. You've got a ton of new fans now experiencing your art for the first time in Lorcana. How would you introduce yourself to the Lorcana community?
Introduce myself? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just a dude. I just draw stuff. I'm just a pixel pusher. I don't know.
Where are you from, Cam? So that
Okay,
everybody-
I am located in Utah,
Wonderful.
state of Utah, for those not, familiar with states.
What state is Utah in?
Right.
Where is this Utah of which you speak?
We actually have a cohort of artists from the Utah area.
Yeah, there's a lot of Utah artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 7 of y'all, all from the Utah area.
Yeah,
So-
and I didn't know that. So I saw a little map. Yeah.
It was funny. I had this vision of like all of you in like a little club together, but it was just coincidence, huh?
No, I mean I've had some interaction with one of the art directors before this. But yeah, no.
That's
Interesting.
wonderful.
There's no secret society here in Utah. of
Well, if it's
Lorcana
secret,
artists.
you couldn't tell us anyway.
I was gonna say, blink twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
For those not familiar with Cam's art, Aaron read them off, but these are your cards from the first set. I say from
Yeah.
the first set because we know there's there may be stuff coming that you can't talk about. Gosh, I want to ask so many questions. Which Cam, do you have a favorite among the cards that you put out so far?
Yeah. Hands down. The Goons.
The Goons.
The goons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
I don't know, it's
often
just
when
really-
one drop, and it drives me insane.
Yeah.
You were saying, Cam, that was like an early childhood thing for you? I saw that on Twitter. I thought that was fascinating.
For Goons?
Yeah, like you were saying that you enjoyed it watching the movie as a child.
Yeah, I mean I did like I like Sleeping Beauty, but without a doubt the Goons were the reason I liked it.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
was that your first card you did for the set, or what was the first card that you started working on?
The first I kind of worked on Captain Hook and the Goons at the same time. Those were
Okay.
the first 2 I was assigned. So they were kind of in tandem back and forth through that process. I think from there it went to Dr. Facilier, then Mickey, then Donald, possibly.
Oh, interesting.
But a close runner-up for my favorite is Donald. That was a really fun. I don't know. It was fun to explore him in that kind of different environment. It was
like-
mechanical boat.
Yeah, I love his boat that you did. It is such a fun.
Yeah, like Gundam Donald. or whatever.
Yeah.
Fun tidbit on the Goons. We were talking to Luna earlier, and she mentioned that you have this series of 1 ink 2/1 lore drops like in every color, and people have started referring to that series as Goons. For a 2/2, it's just Goons. So your card has started to infiltrate like the language of the game.
That kind of warms my heart.
It's like calling it Kleenex.
That's true. 20 years from
Yeah.
now, we're gonna wonder
Like
like,
now
why
it's
do
brand
we call
name.
this Goons?
Yeah.
Because of that.
That's
Um, Yeah, we're gonna do another guest rotation here real quick before we continue talking. Cam, Medina, thanks for joining us. This was so fun. It's an honor to have the godfather of the HQ Discord here, and we can't wait to have you back again. Everybody, join the Lorcana HQ Discord. And we're going to bring in another amazing creator, fan of the channel. We surprised him by a lack of introduction, James Reimer. James, thanks for joining us.
Hi, James.
Hi, James.
Hey, good to see you. It's been a while since I've been on. I think I've grown facial hair since the last time I was on the channel, so it's been a minute.
I think you have too. So we brought James up. So James heard that we were bringing Cam on. We were talking to an artist, and big fan of yours, Cam, and he spent like the week like deep diving your art, coming up with questions, pulling out your cards.
Can you somehow sign these through the internet?
Done.
He's very
I did it.
excited, and you know, we were like, James, you have to come on and chat with Cam for a bit. He's very excited. James, what is the question you've been dying to ask Cam all week long? What are your top questions?
There's probably a couple. You guys asked a little bit of the favorite question, but I saw that you were a birder, and so I was curious.
Yeah.
Did you have any sort of say in getting to work on Donald at all, or was that sort of just like happy chance that you got to work on it?
Yeah, no, that was just chance. That was just chance. I should make up some kind of awesome story about that, right? But no.
You know, I wonder if it was just chance, because I know we've heard that some artists get, you know, to make requests, but we also know that the team does like deep dives on all the artists.
Yeah.
Like, it's no coincidence that Louise was assigned Maleficent. Just like, you know, it might be that they looked at your stuff and were like,
He like
It
bird.
could be. I don't
Birdman.
know. I mean, yeah,
Give
who
him
knows?
the OG bird.
Yeah.
Did they give you direction on the like having the mechanical boat there, or was that just your inspiration?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was direction with that. I mean, I'm trying to remember if it was just in a mech. I think they specifically said a boat themed mech. Pretty sure. But my first take on that was actually a little more like submarine inspired, and it had like a propeller on the back and some like submarine headlights, that sort of look. It was quite different originally, and then that evolved into this tugboat sort of shape.
That's amazing. I have to comment, Cam, you look like such an artist with your iPad stylus as your
Oh, yeah, it's like a comfort blanket, you know?
Well, and since you knew one of the art directors, you might have had a different experience. But one, I always love talking to artists about like what it was like when they got the call or the DM from Ravensburger being like, "Hey, we want you to work on this Disney project." A lot of people were like, "I felt like I didn't believe it. I thought I was potentially getting scammed. Like, I didn't think that Disney would reach out, like Ravensburger and Disney would reach out to me." What was your reaction like when you got that outreach for the first time?
Now you're testing my memory. Okay. They initially reached out to me for concept work. So they did an initial round of having artists just do concepts of Disney characters in different, settings. And at that point, I had too much work, and I had to say no. And I was like, "Aw, that's too bad." But I had done work with Ravensburger before on other games. I've done a lot of board game work in my career. So then when they reached out again for doing actual like finalized card art, I do remember being quite happy about that. That was a satisfying email to read.
That's fascinating.
I'm curious if your Enchanted Rare, I don't know if you knew that when you designed it, but did you know it was specifically going to be an Enchanted Rare, one of the one of 12 that was out there? It's super rare to find.
Yeah, I had the word enchanted on the PDF, and that's as much as I knew. Like, I didn't know to what extent, how rare that would be or anything like that. So yeah, that was a welcome surprise. That was enjoyable.
Did you have to approach that one any differently, like in terms of how you approach that? Obviously, I don't know if they told you that they were going to crop it in for the main cards, but actually do a full art piece for the Enchanted.
Yeah, so that was clear from the beginning. They'd say this would be a full art card, where you'll see some of it behind the mechanic text. That one was interesting because it was the only card where I was also, like it's another version of a different card.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas all the others are just my take, it's just purely my art. So that was interesting to follow up Nicholas Cole's art for that card, because it's kind of like the enchanted. I kind of feel like they should have swapped them, if you ask me. Like, his art should have been the enchanted. But so that was an interesting, almost daunting assignment.
Like, here's a piece of Nick Cole's art, and Tweak it.
Do it better.
Do it.
Yeah,
do it better.
pretend to make
better.
it better. Okay, I'll pretend.
Change the perspective. We do have a question or two from the chat. This one is fun and I like it. So Eliza, one of our regular viewers, asks, question for Cam: if you could use magic to do one mundane task for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh man, what?
We're talking for our
We got some
audience.
Wayward Sorcerer inspired questions going on here.
Right?
Mundane task. I kind of revel in the mundane.
Interesting.
I guess making meals.
Mm,
Yeah.
that would be a good one.
All sorts of meals. Interesting. I think Aaron's would be dishes. So the second half of that.
Yes, I absolutely hate dishes. They're the
That was
worst.
a really boring answer for me. I'm sorry.
No, that's
No.
my answer would have been doing the dishes. So
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
it's
if I
a-
never had to do them again in my life, I would be happy.
Mundane answer to a mundane about a mundane task.
I'm just worried about the way that Wayward Sorcerer with the brooms went in the kitchen with the knives and all that. I wouldn't necessarily want to see the same.
Yeah,
outcome
it'd be
there. That
bad.
could get a
I
little.
mean,
little
in honesty,
dicey.
my first thought was putting my socks on, but
Mm.
I don't know. That just seemed like not the right answer.
I mean,
No, now that you mention it,
Uh,
like tying my shoes might be mine. Like I don't.
Hey,
Ooh,
It's just
yeah.
that mundane thing that you have to. That just takes time, and you're like ready to go.
yeah.
We have one more question from the chat. All right. So First to 20 says another great creator, by the way. Donald and Goons are for sure his favorite cards. If you could draw any Disney character you haven't drawn. Now, Cam, you don't have to answer this question because there's a lot of stuff coming out that that we don't know about. So if you're comfortable answering, if you could draw any Disney character you haven't drawn yet, what would it be? If you want instead, you could pick a card in the first set that you'd like to reinterpret.
Ooh, no, I'll answer that.
Okay.
I grew up on like 90s cartoons,
Mhm.
like not Donald Duck, Darkwing Duck, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, DuckTales, Gummy Bears. I could really enjoy drawing me some gummy bears, like Gruffy Gummy. Yes, please. Yeah.
Cam, you
Or
just wanted to
Darkwing
go
Duck,
for-
Gizmo Duck. Yeah,
Gizmo Duck.
I did
those would
have
be my jam.
I did have a dream last night actually that Ravensburger leaked to us that they were going to do a live action TV show, like they were doing like Lizzie McGuire.
Wow.
Yes, I dream about Lorcana. This is
That's
way too much of our lives.
it's our lives.
And I was like, they're breaking into TV and live action at the same time. What? Maybe it'll come true.
It'll happen eventually. Interesting. Darkwing Duck.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say final answer.
Okay.
Quacker Jack. Do you know Quacker Jack?
I don't know Quacker Jack.
He's like the Joker of. Maybe I shouldn't say that. He's like, a clown villain in Darkwing Duck. He's got like a jester hat and this huge grin,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
and he has like a banana toy guy that talks to him or something.
Nice.
If I was on my game, I'd pull up the roadie. Yeah.
that would be it.
Should have known the bird guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see
Yeah.
the chat cam, but everybody's not surprised that the bird guy wants to draw more birds.
Yeah, this is
Great.
weird. I didn't expect this from myself.
Speaking of
No.
Go ahead, James.
speaking of the shows that you were watching growing up, I'm curious. I'm a product designer, so I'm in a creative field as well, and I know that a lot of us end up being a combination of our influences, things that we saw growing up. I'm curious, what can you pinpoint as those shows, those games, whatever, comic books that made your style the way it is? Because it's obviously very unique.
So, what influences have made my style what it is?
Made your style, yeah.
Oh, that's I don't know. I will say that my art for Lorcana is slightly different than what I typically am doing. What I'm typically doing is way more of a comic book style with a heavy ink line and that sort of thing. So, Calvin and Hobbes had a huge influence on me. Garfield comic strips. Man, Ninja Turtles,
Mm.
huge impact as a kid.
Love it.
Thundercats. Anything
Ooh.
anything animated by Rankin Bass. So that's like Thundercats, the old Hobbit cartoon, The Last Unicorn,
Yes.
Flight of Dragons, if you've
Dragons.
seen that. All of that just like embedded itself in my tiny child brain, and it is still there. Oh yeah.
It's so funny, Cam. Like I did not grow up on like any of those cartoons. I don't know why I missed them in my childhood, but you just listed off some of Liam's absolute favorite childhood.
High five.
He's dancing.
And, oh my gosh.
True.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
Nobody knows Flight of Dragons.
we were not allowed to get married until I like
It's
saw
so
that
good.
whole list of movies. Like Liam was like, "I'm sorry, you haven't seen The Hobbit?"
Yeah, it's good.
It is
I
good.
mean, in a bad way, but really good.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah,
good.
no, definitely. Yeah, watching it in your 30s for the first time, you're like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I can understand that.
The Last Unicorn, I do. I do.
Oh.
know The Last Unicorn.
That has some absolutely gorgeous background art in
Mhm.
that film.
Yeah,
Just
stunning.
stunning.
Yeah, the style, the whole animation style is incredible in that movie. It's so different and unique. Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Interesting. We're gonna have another surprise, I guess, here in a moment. But first, one quick announcement. James, are you going to Miami?
I haven't determined yet. It's like near my anniversary, so I don't know. I gotta work.
Miami's a great place to take an anniversary. You know who is going to Miami? Cam Kendell will be making an appearance in Miami. This is the official announcement.
You gotta sign.
Oh,
these.
I will.
The official announcement. Yeah, I mean, are you excited to? Have you met Lorcana fans in person for the first time yet? Like, so
No.
are you excited? I know you do conventions, already. But
I've done comic conventions in the past, yeah.
Oh, slightly
But
different.
nothing like this. Genuinely, this project has like kind of caught me by surprise. I did not expect the amount of interaction that's taken place. I've done a number of projects that I thought would have more of a, I don't know, response. But this is just kind of, I don't know. It's a different world, and I like it.
it's just getting started too. It's
Definitely. Have you had a chance to like really get into the game at all, or play it at all since it's been out?
No.
Wow. Oh, we might have to do that in Miami if
That
I
is
go,
true.
for sure.
Now you have
I'd love to.
You have to. You just
I was
challenged
about to
Cam
say,
to a
you
game. And now
have-
you have to
yeah.
go.
you are now
I'm there.
officially
You
responsible
and me,
for
James.
teaching Cam to play Lorcana.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in. That's all I've been doing at my locals is teaching people how to play, and I love it. It is the best.
I mean, like, I like card games. I like board games. It's a big part of my life. But I've been like just super swamped with client work right now. So I haven't played it yet.
Fascinating. Well, in Miami, we will have to do that. Do you have any of your own cards yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Well, James, this is your job now. You need to get.
Yeah, I sent you a few. They'll be there in a couple days for you.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
What's funny is I think Heath and I have been at somewhat in the center of a debate between if you should play this card over Maleficent as a 5-drop in the game.
I think you're
let's
onto
not,
something.
let's not get heated on this there, James.
I'm on this side. Heath, I don't know.
I mean, I'll give you the art, absolutely. Like, I think,
Yes.
I don't know that there was a single piece of art that I remember causing so much of a storm when it came out. Everyone's like, "Oh my
Right?
gosh,
That's
look at
amazing.
this piece!"
Use it on
I
Mac
love it.
Yeah,
with web duck feet.
yeah.
I think it's because, for the most part, a lot of the Dreamborn stuff we saw was relatively tame in terms of how different it was from the characters. So this was one of the ones where it's like, whoa,
Mhm.
who would have thought
Yeah.
we'd see Donald in a mech costume?
Yeah.
I now want the backstory of Mech Donald.
Yes, I want more
Yeah.
mechs too. I want to have like a whole mech deck now. Like
Yeah.
that's fascinating. I do want to bring in one more guest. He's one of our favorite creators. One of the things we love doing on these streams is introducing people to different creators and different people in the community. We have Knive. Knive in the corner.
Hello.
Who's also a big fan. He, Cam, I don't know if you saw in the YouTube chat, but early on in the stream, Knive said, "Oh my goodness, Cam Kendall's going to be there. Do you have room for another guest?" And so We send the link, and here he is. Nah, you have a
Jeez, you guys are making me feel so warm and welcome.
It's true.
Golly.
We love your art, so
Yeah, your art's fantastic. I look like the one piece that like got me was your Dr. Facilier.
Oh.
I
Love it.
probably one of the most underrated art pieces within the set, in my opinion.
Yeesh, thank you.
I was told to give you a question, so here it comes. What is something within your art or your creative process that not many people, or either people misunderstand or don't really know about you that much?
Specific to me or art in general?
Your choice.
Oh, all right. If it's art in general, I've already got something. If it's specific to me, I'll just be like, duh, 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 duh. So,
yeah,
art is not a natural born talent. It is a skill that people have to work hard to develop. And anybody can do it. That's the cool part. If you want to work hard, you can do it. You know, but there's like this part of me when I talk to people and they're like, boy, I wish I could draw like that. I can't even draw a stick figure. And I just think, well, it's okay. You can put in the time. Like, it didn't just happen to me. It didn't just happen. And I think that's kind of, I don't know.
You know, Matthew Robert Davies on a stream like last week said something to the effect of all kids draw, some kids don't stop.
Right.
And that resonated. It's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's just time put in.
Yeah.
Is that a good enough answer? Is that good?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean,
we did have, so Stephen Gettle in the chat asked, is there anything that you put in every one of your art pieces? And I'll expand the question to, do you ever hide like Easter eggs in your art pieces that you know are there that nobody else knows?
Outside of Lorcana?
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there are. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you
Do we have to guess? Is this a quiz? Is this a quiz?
That sounds
We
very
have to
nice.
figure it out.
Maybe.
Everybody's on Cam's Instagram right now. Like, what is hidden in all of these pieces?
Birds.
That would be on brand right now, but no. It's garden gnomes.
Nice.
Man after my own heart. I love
almost every project I've done contains a garden gnome somewhere.
So
but not
follow-up
Lorcana.
question.
I couldn't do it in
Are you going to try and
Lorcana,
slip
though.
a garden gnome into one of your...
in the background
We
of the
don't know,
dunes.
obviously. You probably can't say, but should you be,
I might
drawing
have
art
to
for another
try.
Lorcana piece, so you can try and slip a garden gnome in there?
I might have to try. Yeah.
I mean, one of the goons has the hat for it, the pointy hat.
Did I miss out on that opportunity?
This one right here.
Oh yeah, he does have a pointy hat. Oh yeah, okay, that's true. That
Close
counts.
enough. Close enough.
That was it. That's what I intended.
Interesting. Goon and gnome are only apart by a few letters, so
True.
pretty good. So one more question from the chat. You know, you mentioned early on in the interview that the style that you're doing in Lorcana is different than your normal style. Was this a fun change, or was it kind of a little difficult to shift your style for this project?
It was really nerve-wracking at first. I felt a lot of like imposter syndrome, you know? Like, why are you asking me? Like, what are you doing? Have you looked at my art? I don't draw like this. I'm not that good. It was really intimidating. But everybody has been awesome to work with. Art directors have been amazing. So it was, I don't know, it ended up just being great. And in a lot of ways, it has started influencing my art in other projects, you know, for the better. I thought, oh, well, I, you know, learned this little technique that I've not done in other projects. And so, yeah.
Interesting.
Do we have time for one more question, or are we out of time?
I'll leave that up to Cam.
I've got time. Sure.
I also, in stalking your bio and everything, I noticed that you're a father, and and 4 kids, just like 4 non-enchanted cards. I'm curious how much that either influences your work, having kids running around while you're working on art, and vice versa. Like, do they kind of get interested in what you're doing? Do they pick it up as a hobby? Like, how does it interact with your kids?
Huh. I mean, all of them are old enough to be in school now. Somebody earlier said Cam may or may not be in his 40s.
So,
I think you dated yourself with the cartoons. We're in the same boat.
Yeah, that kind of said it all. So they're all in school, but summer, obviously, they're all at home. They're home more. But interestingly, they're not... I've got one son who's a little more interested in the art side. I do have a son who loves drawing like fantasy maps, and another son who loves drawing armor and swords, a lot of stuff. But I'd say the biggest influence has probably been board games. Like, we play a lot of board games, and a lot of that has come about with me working on a lot of board games. So
Love it. I'm sure you're the coolest person to take to show and tell them when they do it.
My dad drew this. Now we're gonna play it. Just one more question to board games. All of us gamers have to know top 2 favorite board games.
Oh.
Ooh, very cool.
I would ask one, but one is always hard. So
yeah, that's hard. For a long day, I really like Twilight Imperium. I'm one of those guys.
Okay.
I will sit down for 8 hours.
He's excited.
And play a game. Easy. Something newer that I've been enjoying is a game called Shogun no Katana.
Interesting.
And it is a game
really
where
cool.
you are forging katanas for the Shogun. It's, I think it's out of Italy. Good game.
I'm writing it
Really
down.
beautiful, gorgeous game, and it's fun.
That's interesting. Those are always some of the most fun games. Instead of like, Twilight Imperium or Scythe, where you're like running empires, it's like you're making katanas, or you're painting a fresco, or you're running a distillery. Those are some of the best. Or you're collecting birds. I'm surprised Wingspan wasn't up there.
Yeah,
I've never played Wingspan.
Wait, what?
I know, right? What's happening to me?
You got to represent the brand.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is true.
Well, now I have to ask James, are you a birder then?
Not quite a birder. I'm into nature,
All
but
right.
I saw that on your profile. I was like, oh, you illustrated Donald Duck. That feels so perfect. I don't even know if you thought about it. At the
I never
time,
thought of that.
but it's pretty cool.
Liam is not a birder,
cool.
but we do have something in our backyard that is now called Birdtropolis. It is a constructed like pole, and I think it has like, when we lived in Washington State, it probably had like 8 different bird feeders on it.
They need different foods. You get
Yeah, they need different.
Yeah.
different foods.
So Liam named it Birdtropolis.
It's true.
That's lovely.
That's awesome.
My mother's a big birder. I personally just prefer one kind of bird, the chicken.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
did he not wear the hat when he came in?
No, I didn't.
That's a missed opportunity.
Cam isn't on the inside joke. He is famous for being the pigeon guy.
Oh.
So there he is. Literally perfect.
This is a live stream I didn't expect to go in the directions it's gone.
Like, what did I sign
I'm
up for
happy
here?
about it.
We're all about fun. And on that note, I've got like 2 more comments I want to highlight just from the chat, just because they're funny. And then we'll say goodbye to everybody for the night, because we are out of time. The first is Cam Eric from Miami TCG has said you can probably expect a gnome at your booth down there. It's now your Lorcana thing. And don't be surprised if people are asking you to sign their cards with a little sketch of a gnome on it, because that may happen now at this point. So you may want to practice your quick gnome sketches.
Oh, I do it already.
Oh, fascinating. Well, hold on.
Adding that to the sign
gnome
list.
sketch on Donald. All right. And other than that, we are out of time. So, we're going to just go around real quick and ask where everybody can follow everybody. And then we'll say goodbye. So Nive, our last to join here. Nive, where can people follow you and your channel?
People can see me on the YouTubes at Knives Nerd Corner. It's down here, this thing right here. Also, I am on the site formerly known as Twitter. I do every weekday. I put up a pack, and the community votes on what the first pick should be. Should they draft? Yeah, those are the two primary places. You could also just see me in the middle of Missouri somewhere.
That's true. And James, you the creator of Lorcana Madness, Lore Madness.
Lore Madness, yeah.
On Twitter at your name, right?
Yes, James Reimer, Ryan with an R at the end.
6 months.
That's what I remember.
6 months.
And Ryan, James is
months.
doing some great videos now, unboxing them and stuff. And Heath, you are at Be Our Guest.
Yeah, at Be Our Guest Lorcana on YouTube and at BOG Lorcana on Twitter, because it would be too long otherwise.
And Heath, thanks for hanging out with us this whole stream and making this go smooth. It was great. Cam, thanks for joining us. I'm gonna put your follow up here again. I can't wait to see you in Miami. Boom.
Me too.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So for those, if you haven't got tickets yet, there's going to be at least 11 artists now that are going to be down in Miami. So get ready to make that trip if you're into signed cards and maybe playing some games with Cam and the other artists.
Yeah.
But hey, everyone, do we have anything else?
No, I
Hey.
don't think so. So I guess all we have to say is sign
Sign
off
off catchphrase.